Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today for a third edition of the CFC Talks brought to you by Casablanca Finance City. We're so glad to welcome you in this beautiful new setting at the rooftop of the CFC First Tower. We're kicking off a very special week here at Casablanca as we're welcoming the World Alliance of International Financial Centers and the UNDP, Financial Centers for Sustainability Network. This is a first for Africa. It reaffirms CFC's role in showcasing Africa's potential to international investors and Morocco's role as a critical gateway between Africa and the rest of the world, sitting at the forefront of innovation, international finance, and sustainable investment. To kick off this special event, Mr. Said Ibrahimi, CEO of Casablanca Finance City, will deliver to us his welcome note.
Good morning, everyone. It is our pleasure to bring you this third edition of our CFC Talks. Today, we are delighted to have a conversation with the World Alliance of International Financial Centers. Casablanca Finance City is proud to be one of the founding members of this alliance, which was founded back in 2018. This talk show is part of our efforts to raise awareness on topical issues of the moment and help play a role in changing the narrative about our continent, Africa. This week, both the annual general meetings of the World Alliance of International Financial Centers and the UNDP Financial Centers for Sustainability are taking place in Casablanca on African ground. This reaffirms Morocco's role as a critical gateway between Africa and the rest of the world, sitting at the forefront of innovation, international finance, and sustainable investments. You will be hearing firsthand from a tremendous lineup of speakers representing the financial centers of Tokyo, Toronto, Frankfurt, London, Hong Kong, Kigali, and Astana. They will be debating on the role of international financial centers, how they are responding to the big questions facing society today, their benefits for the local economies, and the desirable outlook by 2030. I would like to thank our international partners for joining us today and bringing their valuable insights. And also thank you for being part of this conversation. We are looking forward to reading your thoughts, comments, and interactions. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Ibrahimi. Indeed, this third edition features the World Alliance of International Financial Centers. And so I'm glad to welcome now Jennifer Reynolds, Chair of the YFC, an international nonprofit association representing 25 leading international financial centers across 5 continents. Jennifer, welcome to Casablanca.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
So you have a 25 years long career in the financial services industry that has included senior roles in investment banking, venture capital, and global risk management. Up until recently, you served as the president and CEO of Toronto Finance International, which is a public-private initiative, the equivalent of Casablanca Finance City actually in Toronto. And you're also the co-chair of the United Nations convened Financial Centers for Sustainability, co-chairing the network actually together with the CFC. Jennifer, we've just prepared a short video about the YFC, and we'll be right back.
Global financial centers are bringing the world together to overcome the society's needs through international cooperation. The World Alliance of International Financial Centers is a non-profit association representing 25 leading financial centers on 5 continents. The WAIFC promotes international financial centers at a global scale to create a transparent network that facilitates cooperation and sharing of best practices. This enables the understanding of the importance of international financial centers and communication about how the financial industry in between the corporate and investor world contribute directly to growth conditions. The WAIFC frequently publishes reports on challenges of the financial sector, the latest of which is entitled The Future of International Financial Centers. Topics such as digital transformation, inclusive and sustainable finance, fintech and big data, SMEs financing are at the heart of discussions in the global financial industry. Financial centers in 2030 will be green, smart, innovative, customer-focused, digital, and inclusive.
So many interesting topics there, Jennifer. Can you please tell us about the beginnings of the World Alliance of International Financial Centers? How did it start? What's the agenda? And how is it easing collaboration amongst different countries?
Yeah, well, going back to 2017, a smaller group of financial centers had a meeting here, in fact, in Casablanca, to discuss, are there opportunities for us to work together? Is there some advantage to us meeting, to understanding what are different financial centers doing around some of the issues that we just highlighted in this video? And the feeling around the table was very much that we felt we needed that collaboration. And when you think about it, it makes complete sense, of course. I mean, international financial markets are interrelated, right? They're interdependent. And so no matter what continent you're on, no matter what financial center you're in, you do need to know what's happening elsewhere in the world. And we do need to cooperate. And that will allow us to be much more efficient in terms of supporting our economies. And that's what we do. And that was really the core of how can we as financial centers support our economies in a better way. And so the topics that were mentioned, it's not just about big business. It's not just about big flows of capital moving around. It is about things like sustainable finance. It is about things like making sure that our small and medium-sized enterprises are getting financing. And so we now have this unique view, and the network has broadened since that initial meeting, obviously over the years, into what are these different international financial centers doing to address these issues. And that information sharing is really invaluable to be able to understand. Some might be further along in some of these areas. Sustainable finance. Perhaps some countries are much further along from a policy perspective, regulatory perspective. So what can we learn for those of us who are at the beginning of that journey? I think obviously the other big piece for the organization is that we're not just about developed economies and the biggest financial centers. We have diversity within the network so that we can see into what are the different issues and how can we help those who are at different stages of development get capital for the things that they need to get capital for. So I think we really have learned over the last 4 years that this is important. We really see the value in this, and we really think that continuing this dialogue and having that interchange of information will make us all better effectively and our economy stronger.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important to explain to the general public what it is that we're really doing. You know, how are we, as you said, contributing not just to the economic activity and prosperity, but really trying to make progress in things like climate, diversity, and social issues. I remember you mentioned in one of our discussions a very interesting publication and research around trust. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a study that's done once a year. It's a global study, and it's called a trust barometer. And effectively, it talks to business people and the general public about what institutions do they trust. And so as it turns out, over the last couple of years, we've seen unfortunately, trust in governments go down, trust in media go down, NGOs have remained about the same, trust in business has gone up. So people are now looking to business to take positions on some of these critical issues that impact all of us, whether it's climate, whether it's broader ESG issues around diversity, all of these things suddenly as a CEO and leader in an economy, you're expected to have a position on. And your stakeholders are asking you to speak out. And I guess the word stakeholder is actually a really important one because it's not just about shareholders now. It's not just about the bottom line, about your share price. All of a sudden, if you're leading a company, you have to decide on a broad array of issues and how you're going to have impact. And that's a big ask, actually, for the business community to say, how are you going to try and address some of these societal issues, which are big, messy, hard, long problems to solve? You think about climate, you think about social inequity, all these types of things are very different from some of the other sort of more traditional things we've thought about in the sector, like digital transformation or cybersecurity, all very important things, don't get me wrong, but still very different from some of the things we're now weighing in on. But I do think that we have an ability to affect change in the business community and in the financial community as well, because we obviously underpin that business community, right? Without us providing capital for all of these businesses, they can't function. And so we're working very closely together on many of these issues. And you've seen really, heads of financial institutions take very big, bold positions. Think about, the net zero announcements that many companies have made. Those are really important. And now we're at the really hard part of how do you deliver on net zero? And we've got companies trying to figure that out. And so I know within the financial community, we're actually developing expertise there and trying to help companies on that journey. What money do you need to get there? What investments need to be made? Maybe not as interesting, but the disclosure part of it. How do we know as people, investors, that you're actually doing what you say you're doing, and is it true? So all of these things are actually, it's a really interesting evolution, I think, of who we are as business people, who we are in the financial sector as the leaders, and how we can really impact society in a really significant way going forward.
It is really interesting indeed. Jennifer, on a more personal note, I know there is a topic that you're really passionate about. You are currently the CEO of Women Corporate Directors Foundation, which is the world's largest network of women corporate board directors, with more than 2,500 members serving on more than 8,500 public and private boards around the globe. Why did you move to this new role?
Well, the topic of women in leadership in the economy is long been a passion of mine. I, as you mentioned earlier, spent a lot of my career in the capital markets. It tends to be very male-dominated, no matter what country you're in. And so I found it interesting that, over my career, I wasn't seeing the change that I had expected in the first sort of 15 years of my career. I wasn't seeing women advance into those leadership roles, whether it was my clients that I was sitting across the table from, whether it was in the financial institutions that I was working for. And so I took it upon myself to really say, this is something I'm going to dedicate a good portion of my career to, on my time to. And so the first organization I led on this topic was a Canadian one called Women in Capital Markets, which focused on women in leadership in the Canadian economy. This is a global organization. So obviously the ability to impact, across 6 continents is where all of our members are, is really a huge opportunity. And it's incredibly interesting because obviously we'll see different countries at different points in terms of that evolution of, where are women in the economy? We know we're working. We're working all over the world, but are we actually in leadership roles? And I am passionate about the fact that we do need to be in leadership roles, because I think there are so many important things happening today that we have to have influence over. And I think that we have a very unique perspective, which is different. And that's the beauty of diversity, right? Is having different perspectives at the table, making sure that the voices of everybody who lives in a country, who's involved in a decision, gets a say. It shouldn't be imposed upon us by people who are not like us, or at least our voices are not heard in many of these discussions. So I believe women need to be at more of these tables. We have to be at the decision-making table. If you think about, CEO roles, for instance, about 5% or less, depending on where you are, of CEOs in the world are women. That's just clearly not enough. Those people have a critical influence on all the decisions that impact us every day. And so boards obviously have the ability to impact what happens in a company. So our organization, the thought is, if we can get more women on those boards, have more women in leadership roles, they can then drive change in the organization. So we'll see focus on diversity and on increasing diversity within our leadership roles and at every sort of stage in the career to make sure we've got opportunities for women, equal opportunities for women that we're seeing for men in the business community.
Yeah, that's great. And we know that there is a Moroccan chapter to your network, CFA.
There is, yes, who I'll be meeting with while I'm here.
That's awesome. So to conclude, Jennifer, what are your expectations for this week in Casablanca? Why Casablanca and why Africa?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, it's a global network. And so we do like to move our meetings around, have our AGM in different parts of the world to spotlight what's happening. Because really, until you go somewhere and experience it, I don't think you have the same kind of a lens. And so we want to make sure within the network that we understand what's happening in the different regions of the world. This is a very important one. I think we see tremendous growth for the future in a region like Africa, and I think we need to think about how do we, as a network, support that. Where does capital need to go? Where does the investment need to happen? Think about some of the issues around sustainability and social inequality. What are the nuances here? that are different from other parts of the world that we need to think about and think about how we can support that. With obviously the theme that we're all interconnected. So what's happening here in Africa is important to all of us sitting around the table at YFC.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Jennifer. It's an honor to have you with us here this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Manal.
Jochen Biederman, welcome.
Thank you very much, Manal.
Such a pleasure to have you here with us today. You just flew in from Frankfurt, and you are the General Manager of the World Alliance of International Financial Centers. You are also the CEO of Blockchain Asia, a blockchain company founded in Hong Kong in 2016, and you serve as an expert to the Sino-German Center for Finance and Economics in Frankfurt. You're also very active in the fintech ecosystem. So, Jochen, what shall we expect for the next two roundtables?
First of all, in the first roundtable, we will talk about the role of financial centers. Financial centers play a crucial role in financing the broader economy of all the countries on this earth. And on the second roundtable, we will discuss about the future of financial centers. We have spent a lot of thoughts on how financial center might look like in 2030 and how they have to prepare for this.
Thank you very much, Jochen. Let's dive in.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. So for this first conversation, I'm glad to welcome around the table board members from the World Alliance of International Financial Centers representing different geographies. Miles Silic, welcome.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
You are the Chief Executive Officer of the City UK. You just flew in from London. You are also a member of the Department for International Trade Advisory Groups on Financial Services and Professional Advisory Services, a board member of UK Finance, and a board member of the Financial Services Skills Commission. You began your career in broadcasting for the BBC and others, and you moved on to work in the UK Parliament, where you focused on foreign affairs and defence issues. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thanks very much.
Nick Barigay, you are the CEO of Rwanda Finance Limited, the company that promotes the Kigali International Financial Center. You have a track record of managing successful companies in Africa over the last 15 years. You were the managing partner of Karizimbi Business Partners, an Africa-focused investment and advisory firm. And prior to that, you were a senior executive at Crystal Ventures, the largest investment company in Rwanda. Thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you for having us. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Keishi Aritomo, you flew in all the way from Japan. You are the Executive Director of FinCity Tokyo. You are also the co-founder and board director of GM, Japan International Asset Management Center, and the Asia head of Kensho Technologies, a leading financial artificial intelligence solution provider and a subsidiary of S&P. Prior to that, you used to be a partner at McKinsey Company, Deloitte, and PwC, where you specialized in financial services and technology strategies across North America, Europe, Southeast Asia, and Japan. Welcome to you as well.
Thank you very much.
So for this first conversation, we want to walk our audience through the role of international financial centers in supporting the real economy, the role of international financial centers for the post-COVID recovery, and also we'll be talking about your views on the competition or collaboration between financial centers. So we'll unpack all that for our audience. My first question goes to you, Miles. From the perspective of an established financial center, London, as we all know, is very often ranked as the first financial center in the world. It's a key driver to the UK economy. After all these years of development and maturity also, what did the London Financial Centre bring to the real economy and to the people? Because, you know, often what people see is like fancy suits and, busy executives in nice suits. But what's the impact of the financial centre from your perspective?
Sure, and I think that's a really important question. It's the critical question for all of us as financial centres. And I would, if I may, just take slight issue with the term real economy, because we hear that a lot. We hear the term real economy and then we hear the term financial financial services or professional services. And actually, the economic activity that happens in financial and professional services is just as real as the economic activity that happens elsewhere in the economy. But most importantly, it's an enabler for economic activity elsewhere in the economy. So from the point of view of individual citizens, if you think about when you buy your home, when you save for your retirement, when you send your children to college or university, it's our industry that makes that happen. When you insure yourself against risk or your business against risk, it's our industry that makes that happen. And it's also important, absolutely, to bear in mind that London is a massively successful international financial centre. It has a huge number of high-value jobs. It provides services and economic activity for the UK and for many countries around the world. But also 2/3 of the jobs in financial services in the UK and professional services in the UK are outside London. They're outside the M25 ring road. Half of the exports, the UK is the most successful exporter of financial services in the world. Half of those exports come from outside London. And I think there's a fascinating thing that we're seeing in places like the UK, we're seeing it in the US, I think we're seeing it in other countries, where financial services is becoming more distributed and high-value jobs are developing in a number of cities around the country in the UK and around the world generally. So I think there's a huge opportunity here to drive economic regeneration, and our industry is at the forefront of that.
Thank you very much, Miles. Moving to you, Keishi. You're also representing a well-established financial center, but from another continent. What's really interesting in this global network, such as the YFC, it's really the diversity. So financial centers come in different shapes and forms. There is no one model. So what is Tokyo like as a financial center? How do you define your financial center and its main objective?
So, Japan, Tokyo, is not well understood. Even though Japan is still the third largest economy in the world, people don't know much about Japan, other than sushi or what else, animation, things like that. So it's largely because of the language. We don't communicate much in other languages than Japanese. And secondly, Japanese mindset is very, or culturally, it's very introvert. So we don't talk much about what we do as well. But most importantly, when it comes to finance, there's some misunderstanding that finance is for wealthy people. Mm-hmm. For already wealthy financial institutions to make more money. But this is not what our organization is standing for. Mm-hmm. We have massive social issues in Japan. For example, 1/3 of our wealth is actually 1/3 of our population is people above 65. But 2/3 of our wealth is owned by people above 65. According to some statistics, average Japanese has about $200,000 of funding gap to peacefully complete their lives as well. So again, finance is not for the finance. Finance is for more like a blood circulation for the entire economy. And we have very substantial economy. But more importantly, we have very substantial supply chains encompassing entire Asia as well. So we have to ensure that financial center is providing solution to ensure that blood circulation is sufficient across the entire economy as well. So that's why we established financial center in Tokyo as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Very interesting indeed, and very important to explain indeed to the general public what it is that we're really doing. Thank you, Keishi. Nick, now it's really certainly interesting to hear the perspective of a developing financial center in Africa. Kigali International Financial Center is an emerging financial center launched a couple years ago. It has been designed as a public-private initiative, just like Casablanca Finance City. Can you tell us a little bit more about the vision and the rationale behind your initiative and why you believe there is a need for a financial center in Kigali?
Thank you, Manal. And I want to pick up on something that Miles mentioned, more so for Rwanda and Africa. To the Western world, Africa is about national parks. Africa is about youth. Africa is about opportunities. Specifically for Rwanda, over the last 28 years, we've seen growth in tourism. We've seen growth within our positioning as a meeting and conference destination. Now, leveraging Rwanda's connectivity, the aspiration is, given that Rwanda and Africa have got enormous opportunities, but the challenge to the global West is the perceptions around risk. They take that the risk tolerance compared to returns, that's what scares away capital in Africa. Now, we believe that financial centers such as Kigali International Financial Center and CFC, this is where they will step in to offer a legal and regulatory framework that creates an enabling environment. And as such, financial centers play an intermediation role to be able to create the security that is needed to be able to attract capital to different sectors, from agriculture to health to education and infrastructure. Because there is the realization that for African countries that have low levels of saving, that have low levels of insurance penetration, that have developing capital markets, there is need for partnerships with government and private to attract capital, to fund the sectors that are important for our development. And that's where international financial centers come in to play that catalytic role of mediating capital to the much needed sectors.
Absolutely, thank you. And we do indeed have this common goal, which is to change the narrative around Africa and the perception of risk, which is very often not exactly as really is. Back to you, Miles. Financial centers operate both through collaboration and competition. We refer to that as co-petition, actually. What is your opinion on the benefits of international cooperation between financial centers and financial players in an industry that is highly competitive?
So I think there are two or three immediate ones that you could point to. So the work that YFC does, for instance, in sharing best practice on policy, that's something we all benefit from. The work that we do together on raising global standards, again, that is something that we all benefit from. It adds to financial security and it benefits customers as well. But I think the important thing ultimately, and I like the way you sort of put this in terms of the blend between cooperation, collaboration and competition. Firstly, competition is very healthy. It's good for consumers, it's good for centres, it raises standards generally. But secondly, it is all built ultimately on this approach of cooperation. And the more that we can do together to drive frictionless movement of capital to where it's most needed, best deployed, that's an advantage for investors and it's an advantage for the people who benefit from that capital. So I think the more we do together through organisations like YFC, working together with organisations like CFC, bringing together different forms of financial centres, each of which have their own expertise, their own background, their own culture, their own specialisms, I think ultimately that's a benefit for everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Miles. Keishi, it is my understanding that FinCity Tokyo has been working lately on the topic of supply chain finance, which comes at the intersection of international trade, innovation, and fintech. Can you share some context with us about this and perhaps highlight a related case or success story for us to understand the benefit?
So we have very deep investment chain / capital market in Japan. At the same time, we have very strong manufacturing industry, high-tech industry, automotive, etc., and with the extensive supply chains. In the past, those two sectors are not synchronized. People in manufacturing don't care much about finance. People in finance don't know much about supply chains. However, we have to integrate those two to make finance more valuable to the entire real economy as well, as Miles pointed out as well. And at the same time, because of the COVID situation and also geopolitical instability, Japan was exposed to supply chain vulnerability as well. So our economy was choked from time to time, And we have to overcome this situation. And we cannot solve this problem by ourselves. We have to work with other financial centers to, make the capital flow, smoothly as well. So we are very committed to work with other financial centers, especially Asian financial hubs, to implement a coherent and standardized solution to achieve financial transformation in terms of energy transition and digital transformation across the supply chains. So that's what we mean by supply chain, green transformation, digital transformation, which we are focusing on at this point in time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Nick, on your side, what are some of the verticals you have been working on at Kigali International Financial Center? I know that you are positioning yourselves on fintech and sustainable finance. How do such initiatives play a role in developing the local economy and Africa's development at large?
Let me start with fintech. The demographics around Rwanda and Africa is that we have a young population that is well educated, that is ambitious, that has big dreams, but that is underinvested. So the role of international financial centers, again, such as Kigali International Financial Center and CFC, is how do we attract capital to these entrepreneurs that have these budding dreams, but that are looking for catalytic capital to enable them to take off. Now, building that around our core sectors, be it agriculture, health, education, we are seeing ideas around that. For example, right now in Rwanda, one of the success stories is the drones that are delivering blood across different provinces of Rwanda. Now, this company has been able to scale, is looking to other African countries. We have another one that is into automating public transport payment system. And these are the ideas when we talk about fintech. The role of Kigali International Financial Center, again, is being that conduit for capital that is needed, because the ideas are there, the youth are quite ambitious. So that's what I would say around fintech. Now, when it comes to sustainable finance and in preparation for COP27, right now in Rwanda, for example, our commitment in terms of raising capital for a green economy is around 11.3 billion. We have initiatives that are already in place. We have a guarantee fund that is we are going to be launching at COP27. We have a grid fund, but we need more funding, and that's why for Kigali International Financial Center, we've developed our sustainable finance roadmap for 10 years, and it's around putting in place, again, robust legal framework to be able to create investor confidence, to be able to attract investments within different sectors of our economy and across the region. Giving an example of Africa 50, who I know were among the anchor investors in CFC.
Yeah, member company.
Yes. We have Kigali Innovation City and Africa 50 among the co-investors within Africa 50. And then that speaks again to the opportunities of collaboration among African onshore financial centers in this role of facilitating and both those with opportunities and those with capital.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. One final round, gentlemen, as we're all together here in Casablanca on African ground. Miles, what's your perspective on the potential of Africa in the coming years?
I think it's enormous. I think it's absolutely enormous, and I think Nick's talked about it very compellingly, both in terms of Africa as a content, but also in terms of the role that it has to play and will play in international financial centre development. So the demographics are heading in the right direction. If you look at the majority of the fastest growing economies in the world, they are African. The sense of youth, the sense of energy, Africa's demographics are far better than any other part of the world with a possible exception of India. I think it's absolutely right, as has been talked about in this discussion already. We need to make sure that capital goes into the right places, and we need to look at perceptions of Africa and the sense of opportunity here. But I'm really excited, and I think there's a huge amount that we can do working together, whether that is looking at how we provide for a younger population, looking at the transition to net zero, as my colleagues have already talked about. I think I think that the sky is the limit.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Nick, both our financial centers signed a partnership agreement a couple of years ago. How do you see this partnership evolving?
This partnership is very important, and it's an opportunity for me again to express our appreciation, because at a time when we are talking about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, the reality is still that it's still challenging to facilitate cross-border trade. It's still challenging to see insurance penetration. It's still challenging to see our banking sectors develop. Now, collaboration between African financial centers is going to be very important to drive policy, to put in place harmonized standards so that we can create that enabling environment. Our collaboration with CFC is going to continue to evolve around those opportunities. One, attracting capital. Two, leading dialogue around policy that is required to create investor confidence, and continuing to lead our narrative. And that's why, for me, participating into this talk show is very important, because we are best suited to tell our story best. So that's where I see continued collaboration with CFC.
Absolutely, thank you, and we are very much excited indeed to continue this collaboration with the Kigali International Financial Center as well. Keishi, any final thoughts on Casablanca and Africa?
Well, quite frankly, Japanese don't know much about Africa. We kind of understand that here's a massive opportunity and lots of young people hungry for growth, right? On the other hand, Japan is very mature and very stable, both economically and politically. But in this continent, there's a lot of things we're lacking: energy, young population, and growth opportunity. Natural resources. So it's quite a natural combination, or we can find a lot of collaboration opportunities between Africa and Japan. However, geographically we are so far away, and culturally we don't know much about each African countries and markets as well. So having partners through YFC, World Alliance of Financial Center, with Casablanca, Kigali, you guys can be a gateway for us to help us understand how we can work together going forward. So this is very exciting to having partners in Africa, having a mutual understanding and trying to build the level playing field between the different financial centers as well. So I'm very excited and very grateful to being here for this opportunity as well.
Thank you very much, and we're very much looking forward to furthering our collaboration as part of this World Alliance. Thank you very much to all of you. We hope you will enjoy your stay here in Casablanca, Morocco, and for all of us to have fruitful conversations in the coming days. Thank you very much. Right before we move on to the second roundtable that we've planned for you today on the future of financial centers, what will they look like in 2030, I'd like to welcome back Jochen Biedermann so that we can connect together with Mike Wardle. Jochen, welcome back. So YFC and ZN recently released a great publication on the future of international financial centers that was sponsored by GIFC, our colleagues from Dubai International Financial Center. Is that right?
That's correct, Manal, and we are connecting now with one of the co-authors of this recent publication, which is Mike Wardle. You have already mentioned him. Mike, hello and welcome to our small round, and thank you for joining us today. We were mentioning the white paper we have jointly published with the Dubai International Financial Center. Can you tell us a little bit more on that publication, and what are the key takeaways from your point of view?
Yes, well, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very glad to be there with you today. Yes, the report grew out of, obviously, Jochen, from the roundtable we had in Dubai last October. And some of the key takeaways, I guess, from the white paper were, first of all, the challenges that financial centres are facing, from demography, from sustainability challenges, and the challenge of digitization and the growth of the internet. And some of the key takeaways, first of all, I guess, are first of all, the impact of financial centres to a local economy and to making a difference in the world. One of the first impacts comes from clustering, where financial centres bring together groups of people working in the same sectors, which is a very important way of improving innovation in centres. Secondly, the kind of impact on the economy through new jobs, through increased investment and tax revenues, higher GDP growth, and then indirect benefits that come from financial centre activity, development in the financial markets, a higher quality of business environment for all businesses, macroeconomic stability, and urban development. So there's a number of impacts that financial centres have locally. A second takeaway from the report we've produced is that there's this mixture of competition and collaboration between financial centres across the world. In certain senses, financial centres are competing for business, for foreign direct investment, but they actually also form a community with common action and working towards a co-created future. So this concept that we brought out in the report of co-opetition, embracing both competition and collaboration, is a key element for the future of financial centres. And financial centres both are a community and build communities in their own financial ecosystems. And the whole purpose of that community and the collaboration part of financial centres' work is to ensure that finance is serving society's needs. And I'm sure you'll be talking about it, but of course we came up with a vision for 2030 for financial centres. We're calling them green, smart, innovative and client-centric, digital, inclusive, and centres that offer a good quality of life. And I think that the key takeaways are how financial centres will work towards that vision.
Thank you very much, Mike. I'd like to follow up on this. As we're in Casablanca, and shedding the light on the African perspective, what is your outlook on Africa's potential, and what are the recommended areas of focus for the coming years?
Thanks. It's been really interesting. We've been tracking financial centres for some years through our Global Financial Centres Index. And the big picture story has been growth in the number of financial centres doing business. And our expectation is that Africa will be the next area of growth and development in financial centres. The big opportunities for Africa, I think, first of all, are trade. The African Continental Free Trade Area is expected to increase the value of intra-African trade by between $50 and $70 billion. And financial centres in Africa, including Casablanca, do have an ability to ensure that trade finance flows, that trade infrastructure can be financed to support that growth in trade value. Then, secondly, the continuing increase in trade and investment between Africa and Asia, and both China and other parts of Asia continue to be major investors in China and in the trade relationship. So that whole area of trade, I think, is really important. The second area is around sustainability leadership. Attracting green finance leadership to Africa and developing that leadership within Africa, working on roadmaps for sustainable finance regulatory systems, disclosure arrangements, and that could be on a pan-continental basis, looking at Africa in the round. And being a gateway, I guess, for Africa for foreign direct investment in sustainable energy and sustainable infrastructure. So really setting a framework within the financial centres in Africa for sustainability in the financial area. The third area, of course, is digitalization and digital services. The role of digital services in building financial inclusion in Africa has already been marked. There is still further to go to go deeper into the population in terms of giving financial services to people who are currently unbanked, and continuing to digitize payment and money transfer, and digitization in terms of microtransactions, such as paying for goods that are grown in local markets. So trade, sustainability, digital services all provide really interesting challenges for Africa going forward.
Thank you very much, Mike. We appreciate your time. Jochen, so I guess it's time to dig a little bit deeper on the topic, right?
Definitely, we will do, and see you a little bit later for the conclusion.
Thank you. I'll be right back. Have a great session.
Welcome back for the second roundtable. We want to discuss the future of financial centers, our vision for 2030. And first, let me welcome the panelists of this roundtable, starting with you, Hubertus. Hubertus Feeth, Managing Director of Frankfurt Main Finance. Welcome to this roundtable, and it's a great pleasure having you today. Second to my right, Timur Onsanov. Timur is the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of Astana International Financial Center Business Connect. Also, welcome to you. You will bring very interesting insights to our roundtable. Thank you very much. And last but definitely not least, Rocky Tung. Rocky is Director and Head of Policy Research at the Hong Kong Financial Services Development Council. Thank you for taking this long way, coming to us, both of you, Timur and Rocky. We are really very grateful that you're here with us to discuss this topic. But let me start with you, Hubertus. What is your impression of Casablanca Finance Center? And we have our annual general meeting this week. What are your expectations on our annual general meeting?
Thank you, Jochen. First and foremost, I'm absolutely excited. It's my first visit to Casablanca, and I'm absolutely flushed. It's a beautiful city. It's very friendly people, a nice place to be. And when you said we're here to discuss the future of the financial center, Frankfurt has a more than several hundred years going back history as financial center. We all know Africa is a continent of the future, and Casablanca is a leading financial center of Africa. So there is no better place to discuss the future than here.
Hubertus, talking about sustainability, which is definitely a very important matter for financial centers these days. We have noticed that Frankfurt Financial Center achieved a lot in this area recently. For example, at the COP26, the IFRS Foundation announced the International Sustainability Standards Board, which will have its main seat in Frankfurt. So what do you think Frankfurt can achieve out of this?
I think it can achieve a lot, but Jochen, let me make a point beforehand. I think to be sustainable, to be green as a financial center is the only way to go. If you look at the world's been now 4.6 billion years old, and if you condense that to 46 years, human beings have been on Earth only for the last 4 hours. And industrialization only started a minute ago. And yet, we consumed 50% of forests, and we consumed half of the natural capital. We have to change the way we work.
Definitely.
And what's a role ISSB plays? You rightly mentioned it's a spin-off of IFRS. We all know IFRS from international accounting standards. And ISSB is supposed to achieve the same, to set the global baseline in sustainability reporting. And that's extremely important because we speak so many languages, we have so many taxonomies, we have so many reporting standards. If we were to achieve, and that's an objective clearly for all financial centers around the globe, we have to speak a common language. And that's why Frankfurt Main Finance made it a particular effort to get the ISSB into Frankfurt with the help of, by the way, 185 institutions and distinguished people, amongst them the former Chancellor Angela Merkel, who is very well known here in Morocco. She visited Morocco before, as well as today's Chancellor Olaf Scholz. So we have a broad backing, and the clear will to play a leading role in greening finance.
And what are the challenges and where do you see opportunities for Germany in that respect?
Well, the challenges at the moment are obvious. We have to have an energy transition, and it's a painful process. So we have to come up much quicker with solutions than we originally expected. And one of the key challenges for me is you talk always about ESG. There is E, there's S, and there is G. And very often, E and S don't seem to be fully aligned. And being in Casablanca, being in a country that's fast developing and where you can see there's so much more development that's needed to bring more and more people into the economy, into the financial system, one of the clear objectives is to make sure E and S can be fully aligned.
Thank you very much. And Timur, if you allow, let's move to you. So I heard it's your first trip to Casablanca. What are your first impressions here?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank you, Casablanca Finance City, for the invitation to visit Morocco. So it's really my first trip to Morocco, to Casablanca. So yesterday I had the opportunity to see the city, to walk around. So I met very friendly, nice people. So everyone speaks French or English, so those languages that I actually speak. And I'm happy to be here. And I think from the perspective of cooperation and collaboration with the Casablanca Finance City, we in AIFC, we've launched recently, we're also a new financial center. And I think there are many common topics that we can, and areas of cooperation that we can further talk and deep dive on those topics. So I think there are also some commonalities in terms of areas of business. I think, for example, in terms of green finance, Casablanca Finance City is #1 in the African continent. We are in the Global Green Finance Index, #1 in the Central Asian, Eastern European space. So there are, in terms of business areas and areas of cooperation, some common features that we can discuss further.
Thank you very much. Rocky, let's move to you. In Hong Kong, you're active in so many areas, so much on your plate, strengthening the capital market and the exchange, which plays a very important role, looking at all the IPOs happening there. Also in sustainable finance, you're very active in fintech, in financial technology, in crypto and central bank digital assets, having the digital renminbi at your doorstep, but your central bank is also active. And then you also closely cooperate with a lot of other financial centers. And then last but not least, your plans of the Greater Bay Area. So this is a long-term project, not only of the financial sector, of course. Can you share with us some of the major trends and what you expect for next year?
Sure. Thank you very much, Johan, for having me and for WAIFC to be hosting the AGM here at Casablanca. And likewise, I also want to thank Casablanca Finance City to host us, everybody here in the city. To talk a little bit about Hong Kong's development, in terms of our capital market, our IPO market has been flourishing throughout the last 2 decades. At the same time, we do believe that there's a room for improvement going forward, and therefore earlier this year we advised the government and the stock exchange to consider incorporating some changes. For instance, bringing in the market-making mechanism to the city just to stimulate the trading liquidity within our Hong Kong market. So this is going to be quite important because with more efficient price-seeking activity and in mechanism, I believe that issuers will be finding Hong Kong an even more attractive IPO center. So that is on the capital market front. In terms of green finance, we have also done quite a bit. For instance, since 2016, we have been meaning the FSCC has been very active in promoting the development of green and sustainable finance in our city, and therefore we have advised the government to launch its green bond, and also advised the government that it is necessary to consider the duration of such green bonds. We are glad that that the Hong Kong SAR government has taken into consideration a lot of our recommendations, and therefore a lot of incentives, incentive program for issuers have been in place. Perhaps talk a little bit about the financial technology front. We in Hong Kong do believe that the future of virtual assets is very important. It's probably not because of the market itself. It's not because of the cryptocurrencies, how volatile the prices are, but it is rather because of the underlying technology. And therefore, at this very juncture, we are looking into coming up with a holistic regulatory regime that will be more conducive to the development of the industry. Talking about all these initiatives is it is necessary for me to talk about our relationship with the mainland Chinese market, or perhaps the Greater Bay Area market. So without China, or the market of Greater China, Hong Kong's function as a conduit between the East and the West may not be functioning as well. So we need to make sure that the connectivity with the mainland Chinese market is there and will continue to enhance. And therefore, we are exploring various type of connect schemes with the mainland market. For instance, the Stock Connect scheme has been in place. Bond trading through the Bond Connect schemes has also been in place, and ETF has now been incorporated into the Stock Connect scheme. Lastly, perhaps I can also highlight that international companies currently listed in Hong Kong stock market will be eligible to tap into the mainland investor liquidity. So going forward, I think these advantages will allow us to serve the international finance community better.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And Timo, let me take up the topic of financial technology, which, of course, not only in developed market, but in particular in emerging market plays an important role. So how will it potentially transform the financial sector in Kazakhstan? I had personally a few insights. I had the pleasure to support a little bit on your advisory board for fintech, and I get to know some of the fintech companies, the young startups being active. What can we expect from that?
So I think AIFC as an ecosystem, as a jurisdiction, plays an important role in terms of development of the digitalization projects, but also the fintech-related corporate innovation projects. And we've so far created the Tech Hub within the AIFC ecosystem. So Tech Hub is responsible as a center of excellence, as a point of integration for new ideas, for innovative projects. We have a sandbox regulatory regime for fintech companies. So now we have over 40 companies that have been authorized in the ecosystem. Recently, one of the most recent new joiners that joined the Tech Hub was the Binance as a new joiner. So in terms of development of VC, but also e-commerce, our Tech Hub has done quite a good job and made a good progress in the last couple of years. We can also be proud of the collaboration with the World Economic Forum. Last year, we've announced the launch of the Affiliate Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution to work on certain areas that are important to the World Economic Forum, but also the general, I think, global public-private partnership cooperation. So there are like 9 technology work streams, and we have identified 3 of them that are important for the Central Asian area to develop further in terms of tech governance and the regulatory framework. So I would say that within the AIFC ecosystem, the Tech Hub and the FinTech area is one of the most promising business areas that we have developed so far, and they are also among the most innovative ones in the Central Asian area. But so that we work very closely with neighboring countries, for example, the relationship with other countries like Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan has flourished, especially in the tech industry, because most of the new participants joining our ecosystem are from the IT and ICT sphere.
And I hope sooner or later we will see Kazakh fintech companies being active in Morocco and other parts of the world. This would be amazing.
As already mentioned, so the tech and fintech industry might be, or the startup industry might be one of the promising industries that we can develop, because so far among the 1,600 companies being residents of the AFC ecosystem, only 1% is coming from the African continent. And I think jointly with the Casablanca Finance City, we can promote among the market participants and open the market to our participants, vice versa, to facilitate the cross-border collaboration for the new VC and fintech companies.
Mm-hmm. So let me come to a topic which is the foundation of all what we are doing, talent development. Rocky, you have explained what you're doing in Hong Kong. A lot of things, a lot of initiatives. Of course, your universities in Hong Kong, they have an excellent reputation, but overall your talent pool is limited somehow. What do you do to, provide the basis for all your initiatives also in the future?
Thank you. Yes, as a matter of fact, Hong Kong is a tiny city. We have a population of 7.5 million people. And, if we are to serve the international markets, we can't just rely on our own. So we need to extract attract talent from the other markets as well. And therefore, the government is very determined to set aside some budget and also resources to do this going forward. So in order to do it, we are planning to have a streamlined visa application arrangement. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be done to attract the younger professionals who recently graduated from top universities worldwide, and they would be able to come to Hong Kong and explore the city a little bit before deciding to work in our city as a professional. Similarly, for people who have recently left Hong Kong or perhaps considering leaving Hong Kong for various reasons, now there are incentive schemes for them to stay put. One of those would be for them to be free of any extra stamp duty for the properties that they buy. So this is something quite incentivizing, in my humble opinion, to extract or retain talent within our city.
Hubertus, coming to you, talent development, is that also an issue in Frankfurt? And the whole world now is looking for sustainable finance talent. Those experts, they know the ESG and can help companies and so on to get this financed. So the International Sustainability Standards Board, will it help to attract such talent?
It will certainly help to attract that talent. And for that very purpose, Jochen, we've even started a cooperation with the Frankfurt School of Finance to have a specific program. And we also strive to cooperate with other financial centers to bring in those who want to be the ambassadors for sustainability reporting. So there's a clear and strong yes, but there needs all sorts of talents for that. We cannot look at it from the narrow. We need technical talent, we need financial talent. And for that, it's important that we have about 30 research institutions in the wider Frankfurt area with 250,000 students, of which more than a quarter is educated in English already. And you can just see it from the Brexit point of view. Post-Brexit, 59 financial institutions moved into Frankfurt, created 7,000 new jobs. That was feasible. So the talent pool is there. It's deep. Yes, to this massive move, it's been a little bit strained. But we also work very closely with the federal government, which is at the moment looking into changing the law for immigrating into Germany, even beyond the European Union, because talent is going to be the key issue.
Thank you very much. And Timur, talent development, what role does it play in Kazakhstan? You have an extremely young population. How you can attract them and educate them for jobs in the financial sector?
So for this, the AIFC has created an in-house academy. So it's called Bureau for Continuing Professional Development, BCPD. It is one of our key like cross-sectional entities within dedicated cross-sectional entities within the ecosystem that is responsible for talent development and human capital development. So the BCPD has several projects, several subsidiaries, we call it, or projects. One of them is called Alpharabius, recently launched. It supports young high school students and the youth generation in terms of additional advanced trainings in addition to the usual school programs, especially in terms of IT, mathematical, science upgrade programs. But we also have other projects of the BCPD that's called, for example, the University of the Future, where we train, upgrade the skills and the know-how of already existing AIFC staff, but also the staff of our participants. For example, employees of AIFC residents can also join these programs. So these are qualification programs where we work with international financial institutes like CFA, ACCA, FRM, so we provide this kind of additional upgrade programs. There are several other projects that AIFC BCPD has launched over the last 1-2 years. All of these digital or edtech projects have been launched during the COVID time, actually, and we've made good progress. So far we have retrained over 8,000 people, and we can be proud that the reserve pool so far within the AIFC ecosystem is about 14,000-15,000. So we hope that with these efforts we can support the private sector in Kazakhstan, the financial sector, but also the government sector in terms of increased understanding of the financial ecosystem, business ecosystem, but also the digital ecosystem, the digital transformation that's happening.
Sounds really amazing, and ultimately will also bring high-paid jobs for young people, which also is a very important development for Kazakhstan and many other countries. Rocky, one final question for you. So let's look a little bit in the future, how the Hong Kong Financial Center, in your point of view, will look in 2030. Will it be still called the Hong Kong Financial Center, or is it already then the Greater Bay Area Financial Center?
Well, Hong Kong will always be a part of the Greater Bay Area. At the same time, I think with our very unique systems, from the legal point of view, from the taxation standpoint, and how we are free of capital control, I think Hong Kong will continue to be unique, be one of a kind. So if we are to look into the future, I do believe that the interconnectivity between Hong Kong and the rest of China will continue to increase. And that is certainly going to be something quite conducive to our future development, for the very fact that while China is the second largest economy in the world and likely continue to be in the short run, if not overtaking the US over the medium term or the long run, I do believe that there will be a continuous investment interest in the country. And given that our system is more common or known to the rest of the world, this will allow us to serve the rest of the world better. So all in all, I do believe that Hong Kong will remain similar to where we are right now, but with an enhanced capability.
Mm-hmm. And the very last question to you, Hubertus. 2030, you know, German people love cash. Will they still pay cash or digital euro at that time? Or what is your view of the crystal ball, right?
There will be a digital euro, and there will be a lot of digital methods of payment. But there will definitely also be some pockets, some rural pockets, in particularly where you will have cash, because habits die hard.
That's true. Thank you very much to all my three panelists for all your amazing insights. I really enjoyed our conversation. And now it's high time to call Manal back to us for her closing remarks. Manal, please.
Thank you very much, Jochen. Thank you, gentlemen. This was a very lively conversation with great insights. I hope you all enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for spending your most precious asset with us, which is your time. On behalf of the World Alliance of International Financial Centers and Casablanca Finance City, I'd like to thank you once again, and we'll see you all very soon.